religions hold in contempt the power of human understanding. They do so either implicitly or explicitly by denying that we can ever understand the ultimate fabric of reality. If you prefer to quench the intellectual thirst of humanity, denying it the prospect of light at the end of the tunnel, diminishing the urge to understand by asserting the ultimate futility of searching for understanding, then vote against the motion. But if you consider that society is enhanced by its encouragement of the expectation of success and delight in the seemingly unstoppable advance of the Enlightenment, then vote for the motion. Secondly, religions undermine respect for the only way of acquiring reliable information about the nature of the world. Religions encourage the pursuit of understanding by the contemplation of navels and the achievement of comprehension by adopting a variety of ways of stemming the flow of blood to the brain. They encourage scavenging hints about the nature of reality by the close analysis of those ancient, politically edited compilations of folk tales referred to as sacred texts. If you favor self-deception, then vote against the motion. If you consider that society is enhanced by honesty and by unbiased perception of the search for truth, then vote for the motion. Thirdly, religions undermine respect for evidence. Religions harm societies by disfavoring evidence in favor of faith, preferring mass hysteria, superstition, priestly authority, and the propagation of beliefs by cultural conditioning over controlled, careful, circumspect, public, unbiased inspection. If you consider that introspection and submission to authority mark the path to understanding, then vote against the motion. If instead you consider that truth is not arrived at by fanning the flames of a crowd's opinion, but by circumspect public scrutiny, then vote for the motion.
Point of information?
Take it.
Within Islam, there is a procedure to alter the text according to modern society, which relies on logical analogies that are drawn from the real world and a logical process that is followed to reach the conclusion. How then does it block logical interpretations of the world around us?
Thank you. All religions pride themselves on developing analogies, normally after the truth has been discovered by scientists. Fourthly, or maybe 18thly, I've lost count, religions, being founded on opinion rather than fact, propagate dangerous absurdities. Those absurdities quench individual aspiration and can encourage social harm. Take Buddhism, for instance, which propagates the absurdity of multiple, indeed infinite reincarnations, the progressive acquisition of enlightenment, and the danger of slipping back next time and becoming a toad, or even worse, a woman. Take Islam and its encouragement of terror and martyrdom by the false promise of a voluptuous afterlife. Religions that promise future bliss in a non-existent afterlife inhibit an individual's fulfillment in this one and only life. If you consider that it is politically appropriate to exercise crowd control by the peddling of false promises, then vote against the motion. If you consider it harmful to society to be deceitful and cultural immoral to peddle falsehoods, then vote for it. Fifthly, religions propagate fake questions and thereby distract attention from the pursuit of real understanding. When you reflect on the kinds of questions that religion regards as peculiarly its own and denies that rational thought can elucidate them, they turn out to be unsubstantiated extrapolations from human experience, or fruits of the inability of a person to come to terms with the prospect of his own annihilation.
Do you see many fallacies that people use in order to prove or demonstrate the existence of God?
Well, they must all be fallacious, because there is no God. It's whether you can detect the fallacy easily enough. I mean, I suppose a scientist would think of a first cause as a very powerful argument for the existence of God. Where did it all come from? Who started it off? And if this Big Bang was not the primordial Big Bang, was there a Big Bang much further back in time that he did set off, and so on? A terribly difficult question. But I think that any question that is given the answer, well, God must have done it, is an abnegation of the intellect. It really is, it sounds as though it's a positive statement, but in fact it's a camouflage of ignorance. And so it means that people have stopped thinking. And if you are confronted with the question of a first cause, where the universe comes from, don't just slip onto the feather bed of saying God did it, because that's meaningless, totally, utterly meaningless. What scientists have got to do is to trace causes back to their origin and find a mathematical theory of the emergence of the universe. I hope that that will prove possible. There is no evidence yet that it will not prove possible. And any scientist who says that it is impossible to account for the emergence of the universe from nothing without intervention is not being a real scientist, is just too pessimistic. And they don't know. I mean, they've got thousands of scientists beavering away with cosmology, trying to get back to that last moment. It'd be wonderful when they get there.
If we look back historically, we certainly see science moving ever forward and religion, in terms of the explanatory areas that they deal with, retreating.
Yeah.
And perhaps religion is in some corner now, but they're staking out a very strong position. But let's look at the historical flow. And we have what is called God of the gaps, that
yes.
Every time something is not understood.
Yeah, it's abnegation of the intellect.
But, and we've seen it occur
yes.
in many different stages.
Yeah, every time it occurs, it's abnegation of the intellect. So take that God of the gap, take it out of your sentence and say abnegation of the intellect. That's what it is. It's people giving up trying to think and using a kind of a spell. So that's all it is. I mean, it's just a spell. You've got to get from point A to point B in an argument. You've got a gap. So you weave a spell. You cast a spell and you're there. and you call it God. You don't call it a spell.
And in the past, this has been true in a lot of the biological issues that have occurred. Certainly
yes.
the emergence of different species.
Yes.
We know that with Darwin.
Yes.
That prior to Darwin, there was the God who
yes.
filled in those gaps.
The fabricator God, as it were.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, sorry, I just used God without the descriptive adjective.
Yes. Quite so. But, I don't see any part of the natural world, the physical world, let's circumscribe it for the moment, and you might come back and say, well, what about the spiritual world, and so on. But I don't see any aspect of the physical world
Fair enough.
that requires the invocation of the spell we call God. I cannot prove that God does not exist. Everything there is could be the creation of an extraordinary entity that surpasses our understanding. It could be that the universe was created only a millisecond ago, with all our memories suddenly but falsely in place. It could be, as God is outside time, whatever that meaningless phrase means, that he hasn't decided even to make us yet. It's just conceivable that God did indeed create the universe 13.7 billion years ago. I cannot prove that he did not. All I can do is to assemble evidence that leads to the conclusion that God is not necessary for any aspect of the current world, and that there is a far simpler explanation for everything than the assertion of the existence of an omnipotent God.